Welcome to the We Get Outdoors Almost Abstract Weekly News. My name is Rob Yates. I am your host, and today I'm joined by my Hyde if I am Mr. Jekyll. I'm joined by my Debbie McGee. I'm joined by my Teller if I'm Penn. I'm actually joined by Mr. Mark Hopkins, We Get Outdoors co-founder and extraordinaire. How are you doing, Mr. Mark?
I am buzzing with excitement. I'm buzzing with lockdown. Actually, have you seen some of the crap that people post and send on lockdown? It is, and this thing called TikTok. Anyway, don't get me started on TikTok. I refuse. I'm going to boycott TikTok because the amounts, anyway, that's my rant, but the amount of crap that people are putting out there because of lockdown is starting to make me challenge the sanity of 99% of the world. There you go. That's how I am.
I think it's just confirming what you already knew. So, Mark, you wanted to kick this off with, and I'm going to say my piece in a second, but you wanted to kick this off with a winner for the competition that we started last week, which was focused around where I disappeared to.
Yes, we set a competition because I got bombarded by emails by people who were wondering where Rob had disappeared to halfway through the podcast. There was lots of different answers, which actually I probably haven't stopped laughing about what people actually think you got up to. So we've got diarrhea was one. We've got topping your drink up was a very popular question, an answer to that.
And people who know me most likely.
Yeah, yeah. There was people saying that you were going to start a fire, which I thought was a bit of a random one in the middle of the podcast, but let's go with that one. They thought you actually went shopping, which actually starts to get us a little bit closer to what the real answer is. So we do have a winner. So the winner is Oliver. And Oliver, what did you do, Rob? What did Oliver guess right?
I went to go and receive a home delivery of shopping that I've been waiting for 2 days.
And it happened to be delivered in the middle of a podcast. But anyway, so Oliver, congratulations. We are going to send you out a We Get Outdoors t-shirt. And if, Rob, you sit up straight, you'll be able to see you've got a choice of don't buy a TV or you get the We Get Outdoors one. So Oliver, we'll be in touch. You can pick one of those two and we'll send it out to you. So thank you for everyone playing. And I'm sure Rob and I are going to come up with a very silly competition for next week's Almost Abstract Weekly News.
Yep, and it'll likely happen off the cuff with no planning, no preparation, no knowledge of it, and we'll just likely freestyle it because I'm quite good at dropping Mark in it on a regular basis. And one day, everybody, I'll tell you all on here about the first book we wrote together and how that came about. Mark is still aged 50 years just from that one experience. Anyway, on
72 hours with no sleep, thanks to you.
So I want to talk to everybody quickly about We Get Outdoors and about this little epiphany I had in the week about We Get Outdoors and about like, why do I do We Get Outdoors? Why do I believe it's important, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this becoming a dad had a profound impact on my world. And the word legacy sort of jumped out quite early in my daughter's life. Like, what am I actually doing for her and leaving for her? And obviously there's money and there's education and there's possessions and there's all that stuff. You know, life insurance would be a good thing as well. But actually the thing in my life that one of the things in my life I hold most dearest other than my wife is the outdoors. And how can I go about creating this legacy where the outdoors is still an awesome place for my daughter to go and hang out in 20 years' time? Where it's still as green and beautiful and luscious. It's not heavily polluted. It's not all chopped down or burnt down. You know, where does that come from? And I've come to this little epiphany, Mark, that the purpose of We Get Outdoors is to increase people's love for the outdoors and to get new people who don't currently love it to love it. Because I'm pretty sure if you love something, you'll take the time to look after it. Not in like necessarily a protest sort of banner waving type way, but like through the decisions that you make. Like, do you decide to have one of you in a car or four of you in a car and keep the fuel consumption down? Do you decide to not use a paper straw maybe, or a throwaway Starbucks cup? Like those small decisions, if everybody makes them, will all have a profound impact on the world. But I don't think that people will do it unless they actually learn and develop a love for the outdoors, because I think we all protect stuff that we love. And that's my little epiphany for the week.
Love it.
Love it.
I've almost had a similar one, but a very quick one. The thing I cannot wait to do is, as soon as lockdown over, a friend of mine, myself, and my 10-year-old boy are going to go for a 3-day hike into the Berg, the Drakensberg Mountains, one of the oldest mountain ranges in the world. We're going to stay in this little hut. And like you're doing with Love, I want to pass on those skills to my boy. So he's going to put his backpack on, he's going to carry, he's going to walk. And that's the next generation starting falling in love with the outdoors. So you and I, as per usual, pretty much on the same wavelength.
Pretty much the same. So for those who listen to this on YouTube or iTunes or Spotify or Libsyn or any other platform that we release this on, you can come, by the way, and watch this We Get Outdoors Weekly News live, which effectively is two random Englishmen not sat in England, normally with a glass of wine or beer in their hands, ranting and raving about things in the outdoors. And you can come live, and you can come and ask your questions in the comments in our Facebook group. So you go and find We Get Outdoors Tribe on Facebook, and you can come join us live when we record this, ask questions, and we'll say hi to you. So hi to Wayne, Derek, Barry, James, and Kate, who are all on live with us at this point in time. Now, Mr. Hopkins, I tagged you into a post on Facebook earlier this week. And I want you to describe the post to people, what you saw, what you felt, what you experienced, and then I guess we're going to have a chat about it.
This is, I love, so I'll set the scene and then I'll tell you what. So there's this game driver, and what they've done, which is brilliant, it's, we talked about this, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago, where they've put a camera on the back of a game vehicle, and they basically do 2 game drives a day. And you can just sit on your laptop and you can almost imagine being on a game drive. And during the game drive, they give you loads of cool information. So this guy's driving along and he comes to a fork in the road. And he's obviously been following these lion tracks. So he stops at the fork in the road and he gets out. And quite nonchalantly, he walks to the back of his vehicle, looking at the tracks. He's apologizing to everybody. He goes, I'm really sorry that I'm going to the back of the vehicle, but I'm just trying to find these tracks. And he starts walking to the other side of this track towards the bush. Next minute, you see this pride of about 15 lions pop up out of the bush about 20 meters, not even that, 10 meters away from him. And he puts his hands, I love the fact, he puts his hands behind his back and very Britishly and very nonchalantly starts strolling backwards, went, oops, not quite sure what happened there. And he literally just meanders slowly back into his game vehicle. And you can see he is white as a sheet. But it's, and then they play a little slow-mo of it. It's literally, I watch it and I'm crying with laughter. Because we've all, well, you and I have had experiences where we've been in the bush and we're nonchalantly walking and next minute we're getting charged by this white rhino. And we know what it feels like where you're just nonchalantly in the bush. So you're sort of on edge a little bit, but you're also quite relaxed. And next minute, this freaking massive 1-ton animal comes charging at you. Anyway, I was crying with laughter.
So we'll put the link for that video in the description of this episode. I encourage you all to go check it out. But I wonder, in the comments of this weekly news, what we really like to know is, what would you do that's different to this guy? I mean, would you charge the lion? Would you ask it for a ride? Would you pee your pants or poo your pants immediately? Would you freeze? What is it that you do? Or would you milk it for everything that it's worth for the glory points and get it on film? Maybe you'd stop and be mauled. I don't know. What is it that you do? Certainly, having been chased by rhinos, I know that Derek is joining us this evening. I know exactly what Derek does when he's moving away quickly from aggressive African animals, and that's normally he trips over and lands flat on his face.
And then relies on you to walk past and pick him up.
That's it.
Here's what I would do if I walked into a bunch of lions. I would start going, "Awimboy, awimboy, 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 awimboy." That's what I would do if I saw it.
And then you're dead.
Then I'm dead. Hey.
You go down in style.
As long as I can outrun the slowest person, I'm okay. You don't have to outrun a lion. Remember that. That's why I love going with you, because I never have to outrun a lion. I just know I can always outrun you, so I'm good to go.
Perfect. And on the subject of wildlife, we both happened to stumble across an article around the social distancing effects on wildlife. Now, Mark, you've got a 10-year-old. He's pretty compliant, but I've got a 3 going on 4-year-old who the idea of social distancing is, well, first of all, she can't understand feet and meters just to start. So say, Caitlin, you have to say 6 feet away from somebody. No chance. How do you achieve that for animals?
That's what so I read, the article just popped up, and I read the article. You know, when you just read a headline, and the headline goes, social distances affects wildlife too. And I just looked, and my imagination went wild off that. I was just imagining the wildebeest migration. And imagine the wildebeest migration with a 6-foot social distancing. It literally would cover from Cape Town to Cairo. It's impossible, because it's going to be crazy. So imagine the conversations you're going to be having as a lion attacks you, the lion's going for that kill, and then it gets to within 6 foot and he goes, oh, bollocks, I can't get closer to this animal anymore. It just stops. It stops dead in its tracks.
I might get coronavirus. I better stop here. So,
Yeah.
I went to the supermarket the other day, and they've got queues outside the supermarket with little dots stuck to the floor at 2 meter or like 6-7 foot intervals. And I had this, when you mentioned this article to me and I went and looked at it, I had this image of a tree full of squirrels. And the tree is all full of little dots. And on each dot is a squirrel. And they're there eating their nuts, but they can't get closer because okay, so social distancing affects wildlife. How on earth are you going to enforce that shit? Sorry, Mr. Squirrel, can you please, you're 3 centimeters too close to Mrs. Squirrel. Can you just step back a second?
Now, obviously, when you go and click on the article isn't what Rob and I are talking about. It's actually a little bit of it's an upsetting article, a little bit around. It's good-natured human beings who see animals who are they're not demonstrating life when actually they're just resting, and good-natured human beings throw them back in the water and they drown. But anyway, that's what the article is about. But I think our version of the article is a lot more entertaining.
That's it. So if you're watching, whoever it was who wrote this article, the publisher or the publishing house, the newspaper, the editor-in-chief, that's what I was looking for. If you want a good article written on social distancing and how it affects wildlife, our services are available for hire. And I'm sure that we can provide something far more entertaining than the distressing human beings throwing animals back into the water so they can drown type articles that you had.
Yeah, that's almost put me in the same kind of mood that The Lonely Planet did last week. But anyway, let's talk about stories, because that's what we would say. I don't know I'm sure you remember, Rob, when I was growing up, there used to be these awesome stories where you read a page and at the end of the page, you've got a choice to make about what to do next. So it's one of those adventure books that you get joined in. And I looked at it, and there's some really cool ones that have just come out around adventure for kids, which I'm going to go and get for my boy. But I got a question for you. I'd like you to think about and tell us if you were creating an adventure themed type of book for a kid, what kind of stuff would you put in it?
I think that I would, there's one of 2 directions. So I've got one direct. I've got 2. I'll give you both directions.
One direction. Hey, you have to sing a song now if you say One Direction.
One Direction. Oh, I know you don't want me to sing a song. Trust me. I've got one of 2 directions, and I actually do this. I've done this with groups of kids who are clients in terms of story writing about things we find in the outdoors, and with my daughter as well. And one thing I do with my daughter is we have conversations around the interactions that the animals are having with each other and what they're saying to each other.
Oh, that'd be classic.
Yeah, that's it. So the hippos are just too lazy to hang around and this, that, and the other, and everybody else to stay away. Then you get like the frisky springbok or deer who are bouncing all over the place, and they're like children on they're ADHD children whilst being given 15 liters of Coca-Cola. And so they're like, there's that side of things. So that's one type of story that Caitlin and I kind of build together, I suppose, often when we're in the bush. The other one involves Caitlin as well, and many of you know I really quite enjoy. I enjoy all sorts of being in the outdoors, but often I go hiking on my own. I disappear off into the mountains for 3, 5, 8 days at a time and go and hike about a bit. Caitlin has decided that she wants to go hiking. And originally, that filled me full of trepidation as she finds her little rucksack and starts putting stuff in it, because Daddy has a big rucksack when he goes hiking. And she's got a prized possession, which is her little 3-year-old hiking boots. I had to come up with this thing where she wants to go hiking. She's already pointed out where she wants to go to. We're in the Drakensberg Mountains in South Africa, and she wants to go up around that waterfall over there, Daddy, and round here, and then back down and get an ice cream. And I'm busy adding up, and I'm like, jeepers, that's 7 kilometers, which for a 3-year-old is a long way. And I'm inherently lazy, and I don't particularly want to carry her at all. I mean, that's my level of, like, I don't want to exercise, and me, I don't gel together very well anyway. And the idea of putting a 20-kilo 3-year-old, 4-year-old around my neck and carrying her is just not that happy for me. So I came up with this concept of the sweet fairies, or the candy fairies if we're in America. And the candy fairies patrol footpaths and keep them clean, but sometimes we have to help the candy fairies and pick up any trash or litter that we find along the way. But occasionally, Mark, as we come around each corner, there's a piece of candy just sat there on a rock. And nobody put it there. It was the fairy, the candy fairy, that put it there. And of course, put it there specifically for my daughter, Caitlin. And we have a little hunt around for the candy fairy, and Caitlin chews on her candy. And then we carry on with the walk. And so in the Berg, she did walk 7 kilometers, and I only had to carry her for 500 meters. She did eat a whole packet of Haribo in 7 kilometers, because the candy fairy came more and more frequently as she got more and more tired. And then was as high as a kite and kicked off the world's largest fuss when it was her afternoon sleep time. But that was a really interesting, like, adventure story, is like the adventures of the candy fairy and where it is they find the candy, collecting rubbish, where they live. At lunchtime, we built a little house for one. And I think that level of curiosity and fun is really important when we take kids in the outdoors.
I agree, but I also think it would be really funny. Imagine if, you know how Teletubbies, that room around how Teletubbies, that kids program was created. These people sat in a lounge taking some kind of cocktail of drugs and then coming up with the most crazy crap we've ever seen on TV. I think we should challenge anyone who wants to do that and to come up with an outdoor story better than your one now that you did with Caitlin. I think that would be quite entertaining.
Do it. So the people can add that to the comments, right? Down below.
Exactly. Yeah. The next thing that I think the people watching us live should get involved in, because I know we've got a few kayakers in the tribe, and I think we've got a few kayakers or water babies listening to us live. So Rob and I have one fundamental difference, which is I think anybody who gets in a kayak and goes over a waterfall is mentally unstable, where Rob thinks this is quite normal. So I looked at an article, and I'm always interested to learn, obviously, as you do when you've got a really good mate and a business partner. You try and understand a little bit about them, understand the things that make them tick, and you try and learn a little bit more about their hobbies. So one article I came up and found this week was titled 7 Reasons for Kayaking. Now, I struggled to think of one reason to go kayaking, but this guy somehow managed to find 7 reasons that you'd want to go kayaking.
In fact, actually, we met while you were badly trying to learn kayaking, holding your paddles around the wrong way in a boat that was 3 sizes too small for you.
And shouting mummy very loud.
Yeah, whilst trying desperately not to fall out with your now ex-wife.
Because that water was blooming freezing. But Rob, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a couple of reasons for kayaking that this author came up with. And then I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask the members of the tribe who are currently listening to this live to add some comments about what they really think are the reasons for going kayaking. So some of the ones I've got here. It's an adventure and gives you a chance to explore nature. Yes, so does hiking. It relieves stress. Yeah, so does wine. It is versatile and adaptable. You get to meet new people. You can do it in the summer and winter, and it's open to all ages. So basically what this author has done, he's thought of everything in the world that is good, and he said you can do that with kayaking as you can do with everything else. So Rob, my question to you is, give me the real reasons why I should fall in love with kayaking.
A, you can carry far more beer in a kayak or canoe than you can do in a backpack.
That's a very good reason. I'll give you that's one.
See, I keep telling you, all these editors for these online portals, they're employing the wrong Muppets to write articles for them. They should just come to us. We'll do it as a service. In fact, I'll even do one for free when I've got 35 seconds free in my life, which will happen in 2024. So you can carry more beer in a kayak or canoe than you can in a backpack. That's definitely number one.
I'm signed up now.
You signed up. Well, that's it. Or more wine, or more whiskey, or whatever it is that you can also take. Number two, following that same logic, you can take a bigger tent, and you can take better food.
Okay, that's two good reasons for kayaking. Okay, I'm in.
Okay. In a kayak or canoe, you can get to places relatively easily that are very hard to get to in other places. For instance, the bottom of a gorge that you'd have to abseil to or do something like that. You can just paddle along that river at the bottom there and you'll be at the bottom of the gorge. And you don't have to go through the hassle of ropes and whatever else.
So does swimming get me there? And then I can't carry beer or food.
Exactly, you see. And why on earth would you tow a perfectly good kayak behind you as you swim down a river?
Because I can't kayak.
Well, you just have to sit upright. The flow will take you in the right direction and bob along. It's a good job because we're going to go canoeing on the Yukon next year.
With someone who's got a gun.
That's it. Dave Foley is on here on the group right now, and he says, because in kayaking, you look cooler.
That's a perception that I'd like to challenge. Falling in is not cool. I'm just saying there's nothing cool when you're in that point of no return and you're going in the water and you come out drenched looking like a tit and everyone laughs at you. That's not cool.
That's just crap coaching. And right, the next part of this is kayaking actually requires some skill that you can master and become better at, as opposed to walking you learned to do when you were 2 years old and you could do it with your eyes closed and blindfolded.
But you need candy fairies in order to go from step to step.
That's it. Candy fairies are the way forward. Don't knock those people. I'd be devastated. Can you imagine going for a hike and not finding candy on the hike? I mean, that'd be devastating.
No, I'm definitely. Do you know one thing I've already learned about what the almost abstract we can use? That we are so much better at writing cool articles that get people into the outdoors than people actually writing articles today. I'm just saying, because your three reasons are so much better. It's just boring. Improves your health, relieves stress. Oh my gosh, meet new people. How uninspiring is that? Am I going to take up kayaking because it relieves stress? I can think of a million other things to do that relieves my stress. A great bottle of Bordeaux wine. Much easier than freaking getting in a kayak to relieve stress.
I can't tell you what's going through my head because I almost said some very rude things. So Dave Foley says, Mark, it's a really big reason why you do look cooler when you're kayaking, but also it sounds like you need a good coach. And Dave Foley is a really good kayak coach. So Dave, you need to find a way of trapping Mark in a kayak, but you're going to have to find a very long kayak because Mark's about 7'2" tall with size 36 feet. And that's not European sizes, by the way. And so you'll have to find a big boat for him. But apart from that, and obviously a cockpit big enough for him to fit his testicles into, but that's a whole different story for a different day.
It was cold when I fell into the water.
So there we go. There's
moving swiftly on. Let's move very swiftly on from that comment. This is the bit where I get to take over, which I get very excited about. This is our pick of the week from the group. And there's been some fantastic pictures this week. Felix Hand has been putting some really cool pictures out there, stunning lakes. It's absolutely stunning. So Felix, awesome. But I'm afraid you don't win pick of the week this week, because I've picked one basically because I'm probably a little bit of a masochist. Because we're in lockdown and all we want to do at the moment is get outdoors. And Marcus Rowland put up an amazing picture of him getting his hammock out for the first time, attaching it between a tree and his car in the most beautiful gorge. So basically, I want to thank you, Marcus, for making me cry, making me very upset that I'm in lockdown. But also, I just wanted to do, it just brought back one of my happiest memories. And I'm going to very quickly share one of my happiest memories. I went to a place called the Transkei, which is probably one of the most rugged and rural places in the world you can go to. And I went to take my son there for a bit, and we ended up camping, and I put my hammock up between a tent and a tree. And every night we lay under the stars and we put some music on and lay in the hammock, and my son and I fell asleep in the hammock. And it's one of those moments which is just a very cool father-son moment. So Marcus, congratulations on winning your pick of the week. It is an awesome pick. Thank you for making me relive some cool memories. And that's what the outdoors does. Every time we look at a picture of the outdoors, if we spend any time in the outdoors, it takes us back to an experience that we've had. So there we go. My pick of the week. Marcus, you legend. You hammock of a legend.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I love sleeping in hammocks. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Not when you're 7'4" with massive testicles.
Well, you just need a very big hammock. It's very simple. And some big trees either side. That normally helps as well. I've actually strung my hammock up between a tree and my van when I used to own my adventure sports business in the UK. And we used to drive to the Arctic Circle in Norway from the UK every year, which is quite a long way. And when we'd had enough of driving, we just used to go and chuck the hammocks up. And the vehicle roof rack came in use. So, Mark, you want to talk about...
Bars.
Say again?
And bumper bars. I find bumper bars a great place to hang up hammocks.
There you go. Top tip. You want to finish off this week, Mark? We're talking about post-lockdown, post-coronavirus, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we can't go through an episode without talking about the Big C. Have you noticed how the Big C used to be cancer, but now the Big C is completely different? But anyway, that's another different topic. So we're talking about the Big C now. So I'm really interested. So we are coming to the end of a lot of lockdowns. So Europe's starting to open up, America's in a bit of turmoil at the moment. The United States are arguing a little bit about whether they should or shouldn't. And the UK is completely confused about actually what is lockdown and what isn't lockdown. But we're all starting to get out of something, which means the outdoors becomes open again to us all. So Rob, I am interested in your thoughts around what do you think the outdoors would look like post-lockdown? What do you think people are going to be getting up to? What do you think? Is there going to be anything funky and crazy that we've never seen before in the outdoors as people try and retain or get their sanity back?
So I think, so first of all, what we're experiencing now, this lockdown and not getting out, isn't new. So about 12-ish years ago, I think we had a foot and mouth outbreak in the UK, where foot and mouth was being passed from cattle to cattle, often by people's footsteps. You know, you'd walk through the poo of a one cow, and 5 miles later, a bit falls off your foot, and that spreads it to another cow. And they actually stopped us all. I don't even remember this, Mark. They actually stopped us all from going into the UK. And we weren't allowed to go into the countryside for quite a few months. And I remember the first weekend that we were allowed back to go do it, to get out there. And I remember two things specifically. So one is that as human beings, when we're often told we're not allowed to do something, shouldn't do something, or shouldn't do very much of it, the moment they say you can do it, often people go and do it like in bulk, en masse. And so I think when we're told that we all can freely go and move about again and do as we please and so on and so forth, I think that the outdoors is going to get very, 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 very busy very quickly, because everybody wants to go and sit on the top of their favorite mountain, or paddle down their favorite river, or I don't know, bike on their favorite trail or whatever it might be. So I think it could get very, 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 very busy. I think people will, if they're observant, will notice some stuff when they go out. And I remember going out after Foot and Mouth, and two things jumped to my mind. Is one, it's like the outdoors had healed itself. You know, footpaths that were mud now were grass. The bracken and heather had grown up. The get on and get offs of the river were not muddy. They were like green again. And that was very, very, very noticeable. It's like it healed itself. The other thing that I noticed was, even after just a few months, how the natural animals, what I mean is non-farm animals, so I mean deers and birds and squirrels and stuff like that, had lost some of their inhibitions about humans and to be scared of humans, and actually were much more, I suppose they'd gone back to being curious as opposed to frightened. And that was noticeable and quite delightful. I remember being sat on a campsite with having some birds coming and like eating breadcrumbs just right from by my feet. But it was the same sort of birds that a few weeks ago wouldn't have come anywhere near you. Do you know what I mean? They'd be kept at a safe distance. And so I think those are some of the things that we'll notice when we can get back in the outdoors again.
Cool. So basically, we keep screwing up the outdoors, and when we leave it alone, it heals itself, and then we're going to go back into the outdoors and screw it up again, is what you're telling us.
Yeah, and I think I'd encourage people to not go to the really obvious places when the outdoors reopens. Go and do some research now and find some unobvious places. You know, the reason we screw up the outdoors is because, like, for instance, in North Wales in the UK, everybody will drive to Mount Snowdon and they'll want to go and climb Mount Snowdon. Even though around Mount Snowdon, there's better mountains to go hiking up and climb up with better views, more interesting walking, far more opportunities, far more peace, you know, not 1,000,005 people trying to all hike the same path up and the same path back down again. And so I think that part of what we all need to be thinking about doing is spreading our impact, so that those footpaths that have started to regenerate themselves don't just go back to how they were 2 months ago in 2 days. Actually, we spread that impact across around the outdoors just by using this time to do some Googling about what other opportunities there are for us.
Wise words, apart from one mistake you made.
Which was?
It's a hill. It's not a Mount Snowdon. They can't call that thing a blooming mountain. It's a hill.
Isn't there? There is a criteria though for calling. I think it's over 1,000 meters is a mountain.
Really? Well, then it probably gets there by 1 meter.
Yeah, there is. No, it's not quite like that. It's a bit better than that. But there's a criteria for what makes something a mountain, what makes something a hill, and then like downs, like the elevation, and over 1,000 meters, which is about 3,300 feet. I'm sure somebody will correct me on the comments, but I think that's something that can call itself a mountain.
Do you know which country I have climbed the highest mountain in, or the highest hill in?
No.
Holland. 36 meters high. Not even joking. The highest hill in Holland, I think, is 36 meters. I've climbed it.
That's like 110 feet. 110 feet.
In 3 hours.
In 3 hours.
Well, I hopped it. I thought it was much more entertaining to hop it than walk it.
I was going to say, were you walking on your hands or something?
Well, anyway, on that bombshell, I think we have entertained and our list of quality outdoor articles. So, Rob, what has been your biggest learning from this episode of the Almost Abstract Outdoor News?
So I've got two lessons. Number one is, if you haven't yet joined the We Get Outdoors tribe or accessed our members area with loads of free content, video stuff in it, go check out the link below. The second thing is, Mark, that we should be employed as these people who are going to write these articles, like 7 crap reasons why you should go kayaking, I think we should be those people, because the lack of imagination and creativity with regards to writing those things is pretty dire. How about you?
I've literally scribbled about 4 different headlines I think we're going to write tomorrow. I think we should post a couple of blogs in the tribe, test it out on the tribe, and then we're going to conquer the world in the outdoor world of writing the truth about the outdoors.
The truth, the secrets.
The secrets, the real secrets of why you should kayak by We Get Outdoors.
Boom.
I'm sure Dave Foley's got a few stories to add in there as well.
Yeah, so Foley, if you've got some stuff to add into this, chuck it in the comments, and we'll say We Get Outdoors in partnership with Dave Foley Coaching. Let's do that. I think that'll be the way forwards. Coming up, Mark, in People's Directions, for those who aren't aware, we're going to have the We Get Outdoors Almost pub quiz happening sometime in the next month. Haven't quite nailed it down yet, but I do have co-hosts to host it with, or team captains maybe. Matt Giblin doesn't realize it yet, but he's already volunteered because his business partner said he'd do it. And Nick Cunliffe of Kayak Essentials, as well as a team captain. And so it's going to be a bit of, the first few is going to be a bit of a Kayak Essentials We Get Outdoors collaboration. And there's going to be, you know what points mean, don't you, Mark? Points mean?
Points, definitely. Well, in the kayak world, I think it means pints of beer, but normally it means prizes.
Points mean prizes. So we're going to be able to make it super engaging for our We Get Outdoors tribe members, where there is going to be points available and therefore prizes available. And we're going to have some special guest stars come and join us as well. I'm trying to bribe, blackmail and bully the great and good of the outdoor world to lower their guard and come and be slightly humiliated in a pub quiz for an hour, just once off in their life. It's not much to ask.
I think I've got some ideas which my brain has now got some really funny questions for us to do. And It does allow Barry to get an Easter Bunny suit and nail your brother.
Perfect. Right, that's it from me.
And that's it from me.
Ciao for now.